So I have been delaying the video for this build, I don't know what to call this. It's not really a very viable build, but I have been delaying video for like 2 days already. It's probably one of my most painful builds that I ever did, and that tells a lot because I did Flame Dash Totem build, but it's painful for completely different reasons. I'm probably never gonna touch Berserker ever again. Damage wise it is, well, probably pretty decent. I can get over 350,000 Shaper DPS, but it is very conditional. There is a bug which will be fixed tomorrow, and the build feels very squishy. Basically every enemy pack threatens my life, and just so exhausted playing this build. I have died 28 times and I'm only level 81. I have 5.4 thousand life, and that's basically all the life I'm gonna get. Well, a bit more once I level up just from levels. So instead of making a build guide video, I'm just gonna talk about Vulconus dagger, how I scaled it, and like 9 more ideas that I have. Well, actually I don't have time and I don't really want to talk about this build anymore. I just want to forget it as soon as possible. So I will include link in video description with import code for path of building, and you can check the other passive trees and stuff. Right, so let me explain how this works and what needs to happen and what I tried to building. So Vulconus dagger attacks with this weapon, which is local. The dual wielding would not stack either damage, so dual wielding them is not actually beneficial. Attacks with this weapon deal fire damage to bleeding enemies and physical damage to ignited enemies. You got a chance to bleed against ignited enemies. You rotate the sort of conditional buffs. Also, the increased critical strike chance while you have Avatar of Fire. Turns out it is actually global and not local. In path of building it calculates as local. So for the full damage is being done during Avatar of Fire, and before that basically you need to bleed the enemy before it rotates into Avatar of Fire, because once you get Avatar of Fire you no longer deal physical damage and you cannot cause bleeds. So but you can still snapshot bleeds before it rotates into Avatar of Fire. You only get chance to bleed against ignited enemies. So first you need to ignite the enemy with crits, because I'm building as a crit. Ignite the enemy, then you get chance to bleed, then you bleed the enemy, and then it rotates into Avatar of Fire. Bleed lasts 5 seconds, so during full Avatar of Fire duration you will be dealing the full damage. And then, because enemies will be bleeding and ignited, you will be gaining flat fire damage and flat physical damage, all your physical damage will be converted into fire damage, because not only it gives Avatar of Fire but also 50% of physical damage converted into fire. So this is already very conditional, and I chose to use Blade Flurry because you only attack with the dagger. I probably could have. So here's the bug. Rage from Berserker. Turns out it does not give attack speed to offhand weapons, and I am using offhand weapon to deal damage with Blade Flurry only. I could have done that, but then you cannot leap slam. I guess you could use Flame Dash to go over the cliffs and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, the bug will be fixed tomorrow or today, depending on how fast I'm gonna finish this video. Right, next thing. So I am using this fated version of the whatever axe called. Hits ignore enemy monster fire resistance while you are ignited. So then this is actually a big damage boost. You basically ignore enemy even Shaper's resistances completely, as long as you are ignited. So in order to get ignited, Eye of Innocence. Eye of Innocence combined with Moko's Embrace. When you are ignited, you get a lot of attack speed. Also, it does give fire damage. And with this, you also get fire damage leash as life. And also, it does increase damage while ignited, which is generic damage. So that's how I get ignited. There's also Sunspide boots. So I get ignited myself, which is pretty reliable, and I basically ignore enemy resistances. The cleaver is not being used in the blade flurry because you cannot use blade flurry with axes, so it's ignored. But hits ignore enemy resistance, fire resistances is global, so it's basically a stat stick only. But for clear speed, I'm actually using Tectonic Slam, and I find it pretty decent. It's not the best, but you probably could just use Blade Flurry. And with Tectonic Slam, you do not attack with the dagger, and you only attack with this axe. You still ignite enemies, you still ignore enemy fire resistance, except you just use the Tectonic Slam to clear the enemies. The AoE is pretty decent even without endurance charges. The other option would be to use something like that, but it would have to be better than this to be better than this, if you know what I mean. It's basically pretty expensive to get better than this to beat this. I will include in path of building import code to check my plan endgame 3 and stuff. And in the end, I was actually using a very powerful stat stick, but you would need the thing is, gain extra damage. You can only deal fire damage, so gain physical damage as extra cold, lighting, or hairs does not matter. Same goes for Flask. Azira's Promise Flask does nothing to you. You do not get leech, you do not get hairs damage. It basically gives completely nothing except for hairs resistance, of course. Also, Wise Oak does nothing because you already ignore enemy fire resistance. So Wise Oak already also does nothing. The other thing that can be used is Lion's Roar, but it's very annoying when you knock enemies back outside of your Blade Flurry range, and you need to get to enemies and start dealing damage again. So if you can get all the conditions well, the damage against single target is really good. So this is Berserker. Aspect of the Carnage, if you wanna die more than me. Crave the Slaughter to get rage. Basically, why I picked Berserker. Out of any other classes, Berserker gives the most damage, with exception for Elementalist, but I'm gonna talk a bit later about that. Basically, I was just focusing on getting as much life and as much damage, and Berserker seems to give most. However, I regret picking Berserker. I'm even thinking maybe not taking Aspect of the Carnage and would better take Rite of Ruin to double the rage buff stuff. But yeah, it's very conditional. You need to stack 50 rage. You need to get hit by 15% of your maximum life to trigger this buff. Lorby, probably best in slot. Flat physical damage, very nice. Crit chance, elemental damage, some life. As for the helmet, I'm using Pseudo 6-Link helmet for my Blade Flurry setup. Immolate, since I almost always ignite enemies. Immolate and Conk Effect. The other thing would be Socketed Gems have crit strike chance, but it would be very expensive to get. For the gloves, blind gloves could be nice, or you could use like Pseudo 6-Link gloves with additional accuracy, chance to bleed, but it's not gonna be as good as Immolate and Conk Effect for Blade Flurry. And the Blade Flurry is linked with faster attacks because attack speed is very needed, and like I said, there is a bug currently where rage does not affect offhand weapon, and I'm only attacking with offhand with Blade Flurry, so that's and then elemental damage with attacks and melee physical damage. And yes, melee physical damage turns out to give the most damage out of other stuff. Like added fire damage does not give as much, and you cannot use Rootless with channeling skills. Next, I am using well, I did buy this before, just for the aspect of the spider. I guess gloves could also work, but turns out they are pretty expensive right now. I think we are about 25C. But gloves would also work, but you would still have to worry about getting enough accuracy. By the way, I'm not even using any cores. Well, I do have Enfeeble with cast damage taken because I'm very squishy. I don't even know how this is possible to be this squishy and while having over 5k life. But it is what it is. Well, I don't have a lot of things. I don't have boots enchantment, don't have helmet enchantment or something good. Like, I don't know, blade warrior stuff or whatever. Portal, very important. Because why waste portal scrolls? Another cast with damage taken with blood rage, and it's actually pretty cool. You don't need to manually activate blood rage, and you don't actually need enemies to hit you because you are hitting yourself. Masochistic with Eye of Innocence, so you will trigger cast and damage taken just by attacking enemies and by igniting them. And you will trigger blood rage, so you don't need to worry about. By the way, rage alone does not degen as much as you may think. Just having a bit regen here, here, and here is basically all you need to counter the degen on the Berserker's Rage. However, if you take this, you will get even more degen from the Rage. I haven't tried it, but at least in Path Building it shows that you take more degen. Also, I am using Blood Rage, so it is noticeable when you start degenning. Herald of Ash must be quality, because quality increases fire damage globally. So 15% increased fire damage global, which is a big thing. Summon Ice Golem. Sadly, this little idiot keeps dying very fast, even with 20% quality. So mostly just using against bosses. It does give accuracy and crit chance, and sometimes distracts enemies. Oh, so if you're using a stat stick, something like this, then obviously you will not need this, and you can replace your amulet with something like this, or something even better. Also ring with something like damage and stuff. But that means if you're using stat stick like this, you cannot use like Tectonic Slam with that, because you will be attacking with a shitty weapon. So, but I mean, just using Blade Flurry isn't that bad, because Herald of Ash sort of helps with clear speed, so it shouldn't be that bad. As for the flask, Diamond Flask, Sulfur for increased damage, and Conground. Conground also helps with the degen. And then the Basalt Flask. Almost all the time my Basalt Flask is up. I was also even using Granite Flask, and I still was squishy. I don't even understand how is that possible. So I just want to forget this build as soon as possible. Let me switch screens. I do have other things planned. Are you ready? See how many builds I try to plan? It's a huge headache. It was fun actually, and I do like using Tectonic Slam and stuff. I tried non-crit version. Don't look at the DPS because it's a mess. It's a mess. I'm using a stat stick instead of the current one. Also tried Inquisitor because crits penetrate. Ignore resistance wasn't as good, but it may be tankier, obviously, because you're not idiot berserker. Also tried Assassin with dual daggers because we are global. Raider was trying to just go Avatar of Fire and focus only on Avatar of Fire. Duelist as a champion, as a Slayer. Champion probably comes close to Berserker, and it would probably feel better because you can use just Fortify all the time. You don't have to, but and if you don't mind using Adrenaline, you would actually have almost more damage, almost. And then what else? I tried Scion, some kind of silly combo, whatever. Probably haven't finished. Elementalist. Now, Elementalist. I actually planned a different Elementalist for this. Yeah, planned completely different Elementalist. I don't even know what I was doing here. It comes close in terms of damage, but it would be obviously be slower because you can't get enough attack speed as a starting witch area, and you're not going deep enough into the duelist area. You would still be getting some attack speed and stuff, but yeah, elementalists may actually be a decent option. I was supposed to be having more damage actually. I was having over 300,000. I can't remember now. Anyway, I'm gonna include the links for path for building. Maybe it requires completely different approach and not focusing all your damage on during Avatar of Fire. I don't know. I don't really know. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye.